There's gotta be some way to break them.
Wait a minute. I just had an idea.
2, 3, 4.
Can I admit something to you? Something that I'm a little ashamed of, and something that gets to the very core of my identity, my insecurities? I don't like whiskey that much. But often if I'm out getting a drink with someone, especially if it's someone who I want to think highly of me, I'll order it anyway. I know it might seem like a small thing, but I think it actually speaks to something important about how about how all of us really form our identities and the way that these misplaced efforts might be making us worse off. The fact that I order whiskey, despite the fact that I don't really like the taste that much, raises an important question. Why do I do it? The truth is, the reason I do it, and I'm sure a few of you are already ahead of me on this, is that I like the aesthetic of whiskey more than I like the aesthetic of any other drink. That is, although I might not like the taste of whiskey the most, I like what the whiskey says about me the most. I love the idea, man, this is really embarrassing. I love the idea of being the dignified intellectual, having intimate conversations in the corner of the bar, whiskey neat in one hand and cigarette in the other. And I like this idea of me so much that I will order a whiskey despite the fact that I know I'm probably not going to enjoy it that much. And that's to say nothing of the cigarette. Now, as I've been thinking about this flaw of mine over the last week or two, I've been considering how all of us use these collectively imagined archetypes, these stereotypes of the dignified intellectual or the grimy punk kid or the carefree party animal to shape how we behave and what we enjoy. Or at least, what we purport to enjoy. The word stereotype has a lot of negative connotations, but I think it's interesting to note that they do often reflect real-world trends. The notions that all vinyl collectors like drinking whiskey or that all convenience stores are owned by Indians are oversimplified and untrue. However, it is worth noting that just about all vinyl collectors I know also like whiskey, and a 1994 study of convenience store owners in my home country's largest city found that 84% of them were of Indian descent. It's important to note, of course, that these stereotypes, or at least the ones with a grain of truth to them, are the result of complex social, cultural and economic factors, not the other way around. I'd argue that there are probably hundreds of these stereotypes that we inherently learn and integrate into our experience of the world, and not all of them are the crude race-based ones that typically come to mind either. I'd argue that the rich, arrogant tech bro, the overweight, sweaty mega nerd, and the dumb racist redneck are all good examples of these as well. These stereotypes are still oversimplified, remember, but they are based on real people with traits that do tend to cluster. What I'm particularly interested in, though, is how we use these archetypes that seem to be in the Western collective consciousness to steer us as we attempt to craft identities for ourselves. Now, as I look around my cohort of confused 20-somethings trying to find themselves and nail down the person they want to be, nearly without fail I see them looking to these predetermined stereotypes for guidance or, in some cases, strict instruction. I don't mean to exclude myself from this either. This is a time in my life where I'm trying to figure out, consciously or not, what kind of person I want to be. What kind of hobbies do I like? What kind of friends do I want? Am I a career-focused or a family man? For these questions and more, I find myself looking toward the roster of archetypal lives that society has set forth for me. I think there are broadly two approaches to using these archetypes to shape your actions, both of which I think are flawed in their own ways. On the one hand, I see people flitting from identity to identity, going all in on things that I can tell they don't like, just to conform to the structure. These are the people that decide that they're party animals, and despite the fact that they hate it, will just chug tequila directly from the bottle because, isn't that what party animals do? I made the same mistake with whiskey, blindly adhering to my conception of what I should be, and not stopping to consider whether it was actually the right move. Now, on the other hand, there's this very liberal notion that all of us are different and that we should pay no mind to society's repressive expectations of us. Now, while I think this is correct in the broad strokes, I think it vastly underplays the value that these archetypes can actually have in steering us towards things we might enjoy. Sure, the dignified intellectual stereotype steered me towards whiskey and era, but it's also steered me towards lots of books and art that I really do love. At the end of the day, these traits have worked for lots of other people who are a bit like me, so I think it would be naive to dismiss them ex ante just because I'm a special snowflake and they can't tell me what to do. Plus, I think there's a danger when dismissing these archetypes too pointedly of developing a kind of non-identity identity. That is, a dogmatic identity centered around an opposition to dogmatic identities.
Yeah, like all the gothic kids that look exactly the same, never want to conform.
I think we should feel free to use stereotypes to guide what we try when it comes to music and art and hobbies, and even alcoholic drinks. At the same time though, we need to be on the lookout for the red herrings, the things that we adopt not because we like them, but because they happen to be a part of our chosen stereotype. We needn't be afraid to adopt what works and unself-consciously ditch what doesn't, and then over time we become the owners of an identity that is all our own, and one that fits perfectly for us.